Hi, folks. Welcome. I'm Tom DeCord. Thank you for joining me. We'll get started, and I think a few others will probably join us as well. You know, it would be great if in the chat box, you could put your name, tell me what you teach or your academic responsibility, and maybe where you teach. I happen to be sitting in my office in Brookline right now. I ended up teaching for 10 years at Noble and Greeno School. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, but I would love to see who we have here today. Thank you. So Bonnie from Medfield, yay, Medfield's great. What a great district, great schools. Thank you, Bonnie. Who else do we have here? Please add something in the chat box, or if you don't mind, you can just turn on your microphone and say hello. That would be great. We have Raquel here, instructional coach. Fantastic. Welcome, Raquel. All right, anyone else? Yeah, I see someone has just joined us. So if you just joined us, I just asked people to introduce themselves in the chat box. Just tell me who you are and what you teach and maybe where you teach. That would be great. So you have a couple of people have done so already. Thank you. So I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of introduce myself and kind of the session here. So I am Tom DeCord, and I'm the co-founder and the CEO of EdTechTeacher. We're a professional learning organization. My background was as a high school history teacher for 15 years, taught overseas after college, taught in Quebec, where I was born and raised in Montreal. And I've been here in Boston for 23 years and taught for 10 years at Noble and Greeno School, independent school in Dedham. And was a one-to-one teacher way back in 2000. So ended up being one of the first one-to-one teachers and went on to lead this organization. That's a little bit about me. More important, of course, is our session together. So we're going to be focusing on two fundamental, well-known platforms, that is Google Docs and Google Slides. We're going to focus on how we can leverage them for feedback. And in the process, we're monitoring student work. And we're going to see in which ways that we can engender some conversation with them. This is being recorded, so there'll be a link available to you. If you have any questions, any point, please type them in the chat box, or don't hesitate. You can always interrupt me as well. I see we have a few new people. Elizabeth, librarian, EdTech, iLab, robotics. Oh, that sounds like they should be paying you several salaries for all of that you're doing there. That is very impressive. And with STEAM facilitator from Edmonton, Alberta. Fantastic. My nephew, this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm from a hockey family in Canada. My nephew gave up 5 goals to the Edmonton Oilers. He's a third goaler for the Seattle Kraken. So he got called up and Edmonton put 5 behind him. So he got sent back down. But, Edmonton's a great team. Oh my God, what an amazing team. So it's fun to have Edmonton represented here too. All right, fantastic. Okay, so that was a little bit about the session overview here. So there we go. I have a slide that's coming in here. So some of the aspects we're going to focus on here is that in a more traditional setting, a lot of the feedback is after the learning. The kids will write something, create something, we'll take it home, take it to our office, and we'll provide some feedback. Here with technology, we have the opportunity for embedded feedback. It can be happening at the time of learning. It can be postponed, but we can have it embedded. So it's syncing with our teaching. So the teaching and the feedback, and more broadly speaking, assessment, are all tied together. And we know without technology, we do have limited accessibility. Yes, we have pen and paper, but of course, we have a lot more opportunities with technology to actually cater to different learning environments and provide different modalities to provide more access to students. And what I mean by that is, hey, we can communicate with audio, we can communicate with video, we can communicate with text, with images, and more. And so we have more pathways to reach more students. So that's one of the important parts. And in a sort of non-technology environment, often these pathways are very fixed. They're point A to point B to point C. In these adaptive embedded environments, we can be working in many different directions. And then so we can prompt students to use various skills at various times. We're going to focus a lot on embedded feedback, as I mentioned, where the feedback and the teaching are intertwined. And we're going to try to make student thinking visible. In other words, they're externalizing what they know, think, feel, and understand. And they're doing so through different modalities. Like I said, things like text and audio and images, video, and more. And one of the advantages, if it's embedded, if it's in real time, then we can glean insights immediately. Or if it's not in real time, if it's asynchronously, then we can glean those insights a little bit later as well. Okay, so that's a little bit of the kind of the philosophical overview here, but of course, a lot of that we're going to be doing is kind of in the weeds, hands-on. And before we do, I just kind of want to know on a scale from 1 to 5, what's your comfort level with Google Docs? How comfortable are you with Google Docs? So just, again, 1 was like, oh, well, I'm kind of new. And 5 is, hey, you know, I could probably teach this session. So where are you on a scale of 1 to 5? Okay, so I see R. Phillips at 4, Bonnie at 4, Nicole at 4, Allison 3.5, Stephanie 5. Okay, so Stephanie, if you want to jump in and run the show at times, no problem. Feel free. You know, so I'm going to obviously provide you some ideas, some strategies, but it would be great to hear from you too and share some ideas. Question comes in a copy of the presentation. Yep. So in the beginning of the chat box, I put in the link to it. So all you have to do is scroll up to the beginning of the chat box and you'll see the first thing is a link to the slides. And it's also being recorded right now too. So you get a link to the recording as well. All right, second thing then, how about Google Slides? What's your comfort level? Maybe it's the same, maybe it's different. Where are you in your comfort level with Google Slides? Again, on a 1 to 5. All right, so our Phillips 3, Bonnie's 2. All right, we have a 4, 4, 3.5. Okay, so it's pretty similar. It sounds like a pretty similar familiarity with the two tools and relatively high, if not advanced users in here. So I may speed up on certain things, kind of on the assumption that you kind of know it. But again, like stop me, right? I mean, ask a question. I certainly don't want to make anyone feel overwhelmed as well. So give me a heads up if I'm going a little too fast or, hey, if I'm going a little too slow. So let's focus first, feedback and progress monitoring in Google Docs, okay? So in Google Docs, and I just got asked a question, so I'm going to multitasking, and there we go. I just put in the link again to answer that question. All right, so we're going to focus on a few features here. One's comment, one's assigned task, and one is suggestion mode. And what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to get out of this slideshow for a second. So I'm going to click and I'm going to get out of this for a second. And I'm just going to bring up a document here. So here's this document, and I could be selecting word or words and going comment. This always makes me think of a story of kind of to illustrate the power of comments within Google Docs. So this was, I think it was an English teacher. And a guy years ago said, oh, you know, I've been teaching for about 18 years. And kids would write their essays in Word, and then they would turn the essays into me in Word. And I would sit down maybe a few days, a week, 10 days later, and I would go and I would grade them all. But I didn't really know what they were thinking about while they were writing. And I didn't really know the changes they had been making necessarily while they were writing this. So here's the first year with Google Docs, and he tells all the students, as you know, I want you to write in the active voice. I do not want you to write in the passive voice. So everybody get started, write your first paragraph. So all the kids write the first paragraph. He opens up, here's the first paragraph, and guess what? It's written in the passive voice. So he opens up a comment like this and he starts typing, why are you writing in the passive voice, right? And ends up with the comment. So the student sees it later because he's doing this comment from home. The student sees it later, clicks on it and writes, well, I'm writing in historical fiction. Shouldn't I be writing in the passive voice? And then he says to me, oh my God, for 18 years, I've been grading kids down wrong because I didn't know, I didn't realize what they were thinking or what they were trying to do while they were writing. I only got it at the end, like the summative assessment. I wasn't having a conversation with them while they were writing. So, what was happening is the students were writing this essay in Google Docs now over time. Maybe they take a week and he would pop in, maybe not see every student every day, but he would pop and see progress and he would ask them questions and they would respond. And he told me, I got a whole wealth of information about what these kids were thinking, what they know, what they feel, what they understand. And I was in so much better a situation to try to assess their essays and assess their learning and see the progression in their thinking as they were working through the essay. So I wanted to point that out. I mean, hey, making a comment here is relatively simple. I'm sure you all know it. But thinking, really the key is not so much the tool, is using it in very effective, judicious ways. And that's one of them. Ask them questions. Select a word, a phrase, a sentence, a paragraph, and ask them why. Why did you write this? What were you thinking? What is your goal? How do you think you could improve it? Ask them questions. The other aspect, of course, is we can then provide feedback for them, right? We can provide all sorts of feedback. We can say, this is an excellent premise, but what you need are supporting examples. You need supporting examples. You need more details. So we can provide them with our feedback and we can provide them with prompts. We can provide them with directions. One of the things to keep in mind too, while you're doing this, and I want to go back a little bit here, this comment feature, is to be kind of thinking about when you're doing comments that you can add video. So I've got a little thing in here. Let me get to the right slide here. There it is right there. And let me go into present mode so you can all see that. And it's loading. There we go. Okay, so this sentence is a run-on sentence of video. So one of the things that I ended up doing is, because I was focusing on grammar with kids, is I would often do something similar, not necessarily a video, but I would put a link. So you can put a link in the comment. That gives you all sorts of opportunities, doesn't it? Like in this case, watch a video that talks about a run-on sentence and how to fix a run-on sentence. Or maybe it's to a web page, the Purdue Online Writing Lab. Or maybe it's math and it's like how to solve two-step equations, a little video. Or maybe they're reading a poem and you want to give them a link so they can read other poems by the same author. Or maybe a biography by the same author. Or maybe it's talking about a particular place in the world and they don't know where that is. And so you give them a link, it's to a map. And it shows them where it is. So, adding a link provides all sorts of opportunities for all sorts of resources. And it's something I think a lot of people don't realize or kind of overlook, that you can put links in. Now, when I say you put links on a computer, on a laptop, this won't work on your iPad with the app. No, so you have to be on a computer, a desktop, Chromebook, that type of environment, and you can do that. So that's a little tip I wanted to share to you. Another thing that's important here are the ability to put a tag in. So I'll find the right slide that I want to put in here. Yeah, this particular slide. Adding. So I'll go back with a tag. You can direct a comment to a particular individual. So let's say it's a shared document. In a shared document, what you might want to do if you have a comment is have a comment and maybe an action item for a particular individual. So what I'm going to do is illustrate that. Again, what I'm going to do is just get out of this for a second and go back live. And, in this comment here, right? So I'm setting up a comment. I can begin with the @ symbol. And notice all of these names come up, right? Because these are people that are in my contacts. These are people that I probably emailed before. And so what I can do is I can add their name, and now they're going to be notified. They're going to get an email notification that there is an action item for them. So I'm saying, Tom, okay, so please add more supporting details, ... Okay, so Tom, please add more supporting details. So you can give them an action item, something they have to do, something that they have to complete, with the assumption that, well, no assumption. It can be just you and that student, and you can put the @ symbol, but it's really more useful if there's more than one person on the particular document. Like if you've got a few people working on the document at the same time, and you're making a comment, but you really want to direct it to a particular person, that's where the @ symbol comes in handy. All right, so that comes in handy. Now I'm looking at the chat box for comments. Possible for teachers to prevent, not allow students to resolve contents. No, it's not, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, because even though they can resolve comments, the comments don't disappear. So let me go into resolve comments, okay? So if I click on resolve comments, you might think I've deleted it. No, I haven't deleted it, all right? It is visible. If I go up here in the top, okay, it shows what's called the comment history. So the comment history. And so I click on the comment history, and then it's going to show the thread of all of the comments. So realize that resolving it is not deleting it. So they're not deleting the comments. They're just basically hiding the comments. That's what they're doing. And that could be really useful. You and other students might want to do that if there are a lot of comments. You see a lot of comments, it's clutter, it feels like the comments are on top of each other, and there's an issue that's being resolved. You asked a question, the student responded to it, or the student responded to another student's prompt or question, and you're like, okay, we've dealt with this issue. We don't need to see this comment, so we can just resolve it. It's hidden without being deleted. Now that @ symbol I mentioned, just a little tip in here. I'm going to go into the document, and I'm going to put the @ symbol in the document. All right. So I'm going to put the @ symbol. So I've got this @ symbol, and notice that comes up people's names. So you can use the @ symbol right in the document. If you do that, you're directing them to a specific point right in the document where you might want them to do something in the document. You can do that. Also has something called meeting notes. So if you, for example, had a meeting with a student or students, a meeting, you could bring in notes and make notes on that particular meeting. So that's an interesting thing. Let's say you ended up having a call, an appointment with one of your students. You put it on your Google Calendar. You ended up having a Google Meet call with that student. You ended up having a conversation. Now the next day they're working on the paper, and you want to remind them of the conversation. You could even use that @ symbol, bring in meeting notes, and now you can add comments in there. All right. And so a point has been made here within Google Docs. Smart Canvas. Yes, it's called Google Smart Canvas. And the A, is it called a chip? Is that what they call it, Nicola? Oh, that's a great point. I didn't know it was called a chip. So you can use that @ symbol as well inside of that to insert comments. Now there's more in there, but I just wanted to point out the usefulness of the @ symbol that's inside of comments and can also be inside of the document as well. All right, going to go back here to the slides. I'm just going to go back and forth. You know, obviously you have content for you on the slides and you can always refer to the slides, but a lot of it I will show you live. Some of the things I might not show you live. Yeah. Oh, video link. Yeah, the real chat part of it. So I don't have somebody else on my document that I'm chatting with. But if I did, what I could do, as this will pop in a second and show you, if you have someone else on the document with you, you can click, as it shows here, show chat, and on the right, now you have a chat box. So you can have a conversation about the document. So you might do something like this, you know, a student struggling in the essay, you want to provide them with help and you can't meet them in school, you're too busy, got to go pick up your kids. And you're like, well, tell you what, I'll meet you on the document at 7 p.m. Can you meet me on the document? Sure, Mr. DeCord, I can meet you on the document. So you meet on the document, you open up the chat box, and now you can have a conversation with them. You can talk about it. You can say, okay, so Jeanette, what were you thinking about for your next paragraph? Oh, Mr. Cord, I was thinking about this. Okay, can you tell me why you were thinking about this? So this could be done synchronously, but it could be asynchronously. You may open the chat box, you may give them a comment, they might disappear for a while and come back and answer the comment. But clearly it's useful in that synchronous live environment. Great opportunity to kind of discuss the writing, discuss the content, the image, what the chart, the graph, whatever it is inside of Google Docs, to kind of chat away on that. So that's another possibility for you. And of course, that provides you with a lot of information on what they know, think, feel, and understand while they're working on that particular document. Now, I know some people use suggestion mode and some people don't. I just want to be sure that at this point that you're familiar with it. I'll kind of escape here for a second and go back into this document. So if you go up into the top right of the document, you have a drop-down menu. By default, I'm in editing, so I'm editing the document, but I could be in suggestion mode. And in suggestion mode, as it denotes, what you're doing are making suggestions. So let's say this is a student document and you want to make changes to, or at least suggestions on the document, suggestions to the student, suggest how they might change things. So I'm going to click on suggesting. And what I'm doing is going into one of the sentence, and I'm just kind of making this up, but I'm typing here in the middle. So I'm suggesting something that could be added to this particular document. So this suggestion could be accepted or it could be rejected by the student. They have that option. So you can see here at the right, there's a box and there's a little check mark with that means accept the suggestion, or the X means reject the suggestion. So two fundamental modes here. Comment, right? The box on the side, comment comes up, you type in the comment, maybe you put a link in the comment, or if you want to make suggestions in the document for the students to review and decide whether they're going to accept, then you switch, as I mentioned here, to suggesting mode. So I'm going to go back to editing mode here at the top. All right, I'm going to go back to editing mode. Okay, super. So that's another thing here that's worth it. I'm going to go back to the slides. That's not the one. This is the one. Yeah, there we go. Back into slideshow mode for us. Okay, so a suggestion, here's a slideshow on that again, so you can go back and see this information if you choose to later. Tagging, I've gone over with you, and we did a tagging in comments, and I showed you that clip symbol, as I've learned the term, clip symbol, in the document for you as well. Now I want to take a look at version history. It was called something else a few years ago, but now it's called version history. Version history allows you to see the evolution of a document, to see what has been constructed or deconstructed, meaning what has been added and what has been removed from the document. To be able to see the creation of a document over time and its construction and deconstruction can give you more information about what students know, think, feel, and understand. So the slide will show you here on the right, version history and see version history. And I'm going to show you that live now. So as I get out of the slides and go back to our document, what I'm going to do is go into the menu in the top left, and I'm going to hit on File. So I'm going to hit on File, and I'm going to move my cursor down to version history. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on See Version History. Okay, so I've been working on and off in this document for probably years, showing this document in varied capacities, changing it a lot. And on the right, you can see it's like a time date. It shows a chronological history of the edits to the document. So you're going to see something as far back as August 8th, 2016. So I click on that, and it shows you what the document looked like in 2016 on August 8th at this particular time. I'm going to click a year later in 2017. I'll just click on another date. You're going to see some changes here as things were added into the document. So you can look at all of the changes or some of the changes per the date timestamp, and you can get a sense of how the student perhaps constructed, deconstructed the document. Let's say, for instance, you've given them a week to work on the document. You get in there and then you realize they only started the document last night. Well, that might be indication of a one draft wonder. Or you realize that, hey, they actually started the document on the first day you assigned it, and they've worked on it consistently and regularly every day since. That might inform your assessment decision and your feedback to that students knowing that information. So if they've worked on it consistently, if every day they're producing content, well, that means that when you go in and look at that document over that week, there'll be something there, and there'll be something for you to give them some feedback, perhaps comment, perhaps give them a resource, as opposed to, there's nothing on the document and the document's due tomorrow. What happened here? Okay, so that can be really, really useful to see the version history. What also is useful, if there are more than one persons working on the document, they will color code it. So let's say, I don't know, Jeanette and Billy are working on the same document. If you look then at the text for Jeanette will be one color, let's say purple, and the text by Billy will be another color, let's say yellow. And so you'll see different colors, and so you'll know which student did what on the document. Why? Because they have signed in to Google Docs, and so you're able to then differentiate between the different contributors to the document as well. So the version history can be very helpful when you have multiple people working on the same document, because it will color code their contributions. Hey, I'm going to stop at this point right now. Get a little feedback. Am I going too fast, too slow, or just right? Too fast, too slow, just right? If you just let me know in the chat box, if it's going, how am I doing here in speed? All right, pace is good for me. Good. Sounds good. Pace just right. Pace is okay. Okay, good. I'm not going too slow, too fast. Okay, great. So, thank you. It's good to know. I don't want to go too fast, and I don't want to go too slow. Try to find that sweet spot. All right, super. Question. Okay, after a student accepts a suggestion, record of what the comment was. Yeah. There is, because it'll be in the version history. as well. So you've got that in version history. Great question. All right, super. All right, let me go back to the slides here. And I'm going to go back into slideshow and present mode for you. And grab a sip of water while it does that. Okay, great. So we looked at version history. There's the slide on that. Here's an example here. I showed you live. Notice on this example on the right, there's two people. So Avra, who is in green, and Anissa, who is in purple. So you see color-coded green, you know that Avra did all that and not Anissa. All right, so there's an example of the color coding right there. Okay, Google Slides. Now, some of the features are very common, right? The feedback features, but some are not. In fact, for several years, you could only comment on a slide. You couldn't comment on text in a slide, but that's changed. So now you can comment on a section of text. So if you haven't looked at the comment feature inside of slides for a while, take another look at it because it goes beyond just a comment on a slide. You can comment on text. So in that sense, now it's the same as in Google Docs, which is great. We have that option. Now, here's an interesting way of thinking about Google Slides. So here's an example of a real individual, but still a collaborative space for note-taking and some guided tasks. Now, you know in Google Slides, you have visuals. You know you can create graphics. You can easily create a graphic such as this. And the graphic can contain elements. In this case, there are some shapes. You'll see task 1, task 2, task 3. Those can be moved. So here is an example using this particular graphic space that could be a template. So you see in the task 1 space, you might write out, okay, students, here's what I want you to do. I want you to solve, I don't know, 2x plus 7 equals 81. I don't know. And then task 2, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write a paragraph on how you solve the equation. Task 3, what I want you to do is to create a chart or a graph of the equation. Now, I'm just obviously making up some tasks, but the teacher could put tasks into the spaces. So let's say it's a class, right? Every student has this. They have this kind of generic space, this generic graphic template, and they're working on things. So Jeanette's working on this. And when she's finished with task 1, you know what she does? She drags, you see the task 1, the little rectangle in blue? She drags it over here where it says place here when complete. So when you look at their different Google Slides, you know where the students are on those 3 tasks that you've given them, because you've given them, they're working on them. They might be working on them in class. You might be in a remote learning environment and they're working on them at home or somewhere else. And you're going and you're taking a look at their different slides and you see, have they completed task 1? Have they completed task 2? Have they completed task 3? Another thing you could do, you see this help thing at the bottom? You could say, hey, if you're having trouble, click on this little rectangle, this bucket, and turn it red. So when you're clicking and looking at their various work, you see red. So you see that there's a problem. Now, maybe in class, if it's in class, you kind of walk over to the student and ask them a question and see what the problem is. If it's an online environment, maybe you start up a chat. I don't know. So there's different ways that you could then use this information to contact and communicate with the student and work through this issue. Maybe it's an issue that a lot of students are having trouble with, so you want to make a general announcement and a general explanation to the class. So that's a simple but ingenious way for you to create an environment where students could be working independently, autonomously, but you're monitoring their progress and you've got a system in place, very simple. So you know, have they done task 1? Have they done task 2? Have they done task 3? Do they need help? Does that make sense? All right, great, super. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this. And I just wanna point out too, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just escape this so I can see the grid view. It's partially hidden from me, but there it is at the bottom. There's a grid view in the bottom left of slides, okay? So when you click on that grid view, now you can see all of the students' slides all at the same time. It could be very useful to switch to grid view if you want a quick little overview of what the students has done. And maybe there's a slide that's blank, a slide that's incomplete. You could quickly zero in on that as well. So it gives you just a quick bird's eye view, global view of all of the slides. It might be useful for quickly indicating whether there's a particular slide that needs some attention. All right, I'm going to go back now to the regular kind of file view here. So I wanted to point that out. That could be very useful, just a little feature here. And now I want to point out something, that there's all sorts of different ways that you could create interactive notebooks with Google Slides. This is just one example of, all right, you create a graphic, you create a little template in Google Slides, you share it with all of the students. And in this example, there's a student workspace. So that's where students will write notes, where students will create create content. That'll be that student workspace. But maybe you're going to use these spaces over here to provide comments. So you're going to write some comments in feedback comment 1 area. And in feedback comment 2, you're going to include a video comment. Maybe you're going to record yourself. It could be an audio comment. I'll show you a tool for doing that. Or it could be a video comment, and I'll show you a tool for doing that later on. So you could provide multimedia comment. You could do that. An example of something that is, rather simple, but could be really useful. And I'm going to go into present mode here, slideshow mode, a little easier for you to take a look at, is something like this. You could create all sorts of interactive note templates for students. So because Google Slides can accept video, principally from YouTube video, you can include a video. So here's a video on the Cold War. So you're asking the students, okay, before watching the video, I want you to write some notes about what you know about the Cold War. So this is prior knowledge. Then I want you to watch the video, and then I want you to write some new ideas. I want you to write what you've learned in this. Okay, so here's a good way of making a particular assignment interactive, maybe something you're doing in class, or maybe something that's synchronous at home, or something asynchronous. Maybe this is an assignment, a homework assignment, and they will do that on their own. And so we don't typically, typically think of Google Slides for taking notes, but it's got some built-in advantages because it's such a graphic space, and it just is so engendered to putting in shapes and making spaces and can incorporate video. It could be a really great area for making an interactive note environment with all sorts of different configurations. There's lots of ways that we could basically configure these spaces and create templates. So you may have something you like, the Cornell method of note-taking. So maybe you have a template based on the Cornell method of note-taking. Maybe you have some other template or some other organization, the way that you like kids to have notes and the way that you want to present content to them. So it's really up to you. This is just a few examples to hopefully prompt some thinking about how you might design templates for them. Okay, great. So now working with audio and video for feedback and monitoring progress. Now, there are lots of audio and video tools, but what we're going to do, we're going to focus principally on those that can sync well in the Google environment, right? Because that's our focus right now, is the Google, and specifically, of course, with Google Docs and Google Slides. All right. So here's a few. And one that's become extremely popular is called Moat. Now, Moat is what's called a Google extension. So I don't want to assume that people know what an extension is. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to move along. and I'm going to show you where you get extensions. You can get extensions from what's called the web store, the Chrome web store. All you have to do is Google the Chrome web store and it will bring you there. So you go to the web store and you see here on the right, you have one menu item called extensions. So you can click on extensions and you could search for Moat in this instance, or you could search for other extensions. Now, what is an extension? Like, how is it different from an app? So the thing to kind of understand here about that, do I have, no, I thought I had, okay. I'll explain by showing you in my browser. An extension is within the browser. So a Chrome extension works in the Chrome browser. So if I escape from this and we go back, I'm in my Chrome browser. Take a look here at the top right. You can see my picture, right, my account. And then to the left is a little icon which denotes extensions. Extensions. So if I click on it, it shows me extensions that are open in my browser. So Moat is open in my browser. Okay, I'll show you a little bit more about extensions, but let me just focus on Moat for a second. If I go back and I go back to my document here, and I'll go back to the beginning, and I select words. Do you see now that little M that appears in the content? Why? That appears because I have the Moat extension. All right, I've added the Moat extension to my browser. And if I go back and just to make sure you're clear here on what I'm talking about, is you see, you go in extensions in the Chrome web store and you search for Moat, and then you can see in the image down below, you click on the button Add to Chrome. All right, so you're going to search for the extension in the Chrome web store, search for the extension. And when you find the extension, there's going to be a button that says Add to Chrome. So you're going to add it to Chrome. They're gonna go like allow this or allow that, and you go yes, allow it, and now it's added to your Chrome browser. Because I've added it to Chrome and my browser, and I'm working in my browser, well, it works in Google Docs. I'm in Google Docs in my browser. So hey, I'm in the browser. Now I can click on the M. And when I do that, it's now recording me. So I can say, oh, wonderful, Janet, you're such a great student. I love your work. I've been reading this paragraph and I have some suggestions for you and I have some questions for you. So I suggest you add more concrete details. You have to prove your thesis statement. I suggest you add an image in here that really denotes the message you're trying to convey, da, 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 da. And I can talk up to 3 minutes long. And I can save that. And now a student can come and listen to that comment. If the student has Moat, the student, of course, can create an audio comment as well. But here I'm kind of focused maybe more of you as the teacher, leaving some audio comments on student work to provide them feedback, since, hey, providing feedback is kind of the focus of this session. All right. Now, if I go back to the slide here, where I have various options here. I want to explain why I've put a few more options here besides Moat. So I'm going to go back to this slideshow mode, and I'm going to go back a slide once it pops up here. Now, Moat was free, like pretty much completely free until guess when? Today. This morning, one of my colleagues sent out a note that says, well, now it's freemium. It's freemium. So freemium, if you haven't heard that term, means their basic features are free, and then the rest of them you have to pay for. So it's now $39 a year. So my kind of idea coming into this workshop is, oh, I'm going to focus like on Moat, because Moat's free and it's good and it's easy and it's an extension. I'm like, well, I got to provide maybe another option. Another option is Kaizena, which has been around off and on for years, kind of disappeared for a while. It's back, but that's even more expensive. But you know, Kaizena is very similar. You add a comment, and you can add an auto recording. But what Kaizena offers that Mote doesn't really offer is you can set up classes. You can have this organized by classes. So you have these options to get very organized in your audio recordings. And so it adds some extra features, but I don't want to belabor that. I think Mote is the way to go if you're just focused on providing some audio comments within the Chrome browser, and in this case, specifically within Google Docs or Google Slides. All right, I would go with Mote. Unfortunately, I've got the bad news today that you're going to ante up $39 for that. Okay. Now, in terms of video, there's all sorts of ways to create screencasts, to be able to record what's on your screen, add your voice, add animation, add other elements, create a video tutorial, a video explanation, a video presentation, whatever it is that you'd like to do. By far, well, maybe not by far, but one of the most prevalent, most popular, if not the most popular tool within the Google using environment in education is Screencastify. So Screencastify is also an extension, right? So you can get it from the web store. You can go to the web store, search Screencastify, add it to Chrome. And what it'll enable you to do is to create a capture of the screen you're working on. And if you wish, multiple screens. You can talk, you can do a little animation at the same time, and it will automatically create a video cast for you, or screencast. You can record free up to 5 minutes. However, it's not expensive. I think it's $29 for unlimited recording and unlimited exporting. Now, I'll show you some of the features in a moment. What I'm going to do is kind of escape out of this right now. And I'm going to click on the top right, extensions, and I'm going to open up Screencastify. So I open up Screencastify, and I actually have a slide. And I'll show you the slide. I'll make it a little easier to kind of visualize all of these things here. So let me go to the slide. There it is. So this slide gives you kind of a nice little overview of the various features. I was just showing it to you briefly live. So one of the key considerations is if you want to record your whole desktop. So if you record a bigger area, it makes the file bigger. But this is not a big issue because the file is going to stay on the web. So what's nice about Screencastify, you don't have to worry about downloading a file, uploading a file. It will stay on the web, and you just provide a link to it so students can watch it on the web. And likewise, if they create it with Screencastify, you can watch it on the web. So you don't have to worry about the downloading and uploading. But if you're going to make a screencast and you're going to be jumping around, you're going to be in a browser, then you're going to move to Microsoft Word, let's say, show that, and then you're going to bring up another app on your screen. You're going to be jumping around recording different things on your desktop, then it makes sense for you to choose desktop. But if everything you want to show is in one tab on your browser, then you can select Browser tab. All right, if you select Browser tab, then it's only going to record what's in that browser tab, not the whole browser, just that tab. All right, so keep that in mind, because if you don't select desktop and you're in Browser tab and then you go to another tab you have open, it's not going to record that. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. The microphone, you can choose internal mic. I use an internal mic most times. Whether you want to embed a webcam. And I usually do that. And what that will do is it will create a webcam of you in the corner, right? So you'll be in the corner. So they can see the presentation, but they can also see you. That can be especially helpful if you want to demonstrate something, hold something. So let's say you're talking about I don't know, particular place of the world, and you're holding up in your hand just a little map. You're talking about something organic, and you're holding it in your hand. You're talking about some organic element, and you've got it in your hand. You want to show them. If maybe you're standing in a science lab and you want them to see this little experiment, you can use the webcam and you can show them the little experiment. So you can show anything that webcam can capture that's around you. So it's great if you want to provide in visual elements. And hey, if it's a foreign language, then they can see your lips. They can, see how your lips are moving. You're talking about, oh, you gotta roll the R, roll your tongue. This is how I roll it in Spanish. So there's all sorts of different ways that different reasons you might want to include those elements. So let me go back to the live part here. All right, so I'll go back to the live part. And I'm gonna go, where were we? Yeah, let's see. We'll just pick some slide here. Yeah, this one, video feedback, Screencastify. I'm gonna click on my extensions in that top right corner, and I'm gonna click on Screencastify again. So that little box comes up, and I've got on desktop. I've got a microphone, and it's by default the internal microphone. I don't have headsets today. And I'm embedding the webcam. Okay, so when I do that, when I hit record, I have to choose whether it's the entire screen or a window, but I want desktop. So I'm going to click on this entire screen. And now the share button has gone from gray to blue. And I can click on the share button. So now what it's going to do, it's going to be recording to 1. Now it's actually recording me. Now what you can't see, and I've got to move some things because they're blocking it. Let me get it out of the way. Let me move this up. There's a menu bar that's down here at the bottom, has an option, for example, a pen. So I click on the pen, and while I'm talking, I can see, and we're going to focus on feedback. So I could circle, and we're going to learn how do we solve 2x plus equals . Or, hey, we're going to graph something, or we're going to put a little chart, whatever it might be. So you've got this pen that you can end up illustrating at the same time, and you got different colors and things of that nature. I could pause the recording at any time. Let's say I'm going to pause the recording because I want to show them something different. I'm going to go and I'm going to show them something here in Google Drive. So now I've paused because I brought up another tab. I'm recording the whole desktop. It's no problem if I change tabs. And now what I can do is I can continue with that recording. So you have that option as well. Okay, I'm going to go back. Let me pull this down a little bit. Go back here. Yeah, and let's say I just stop the recording. So a few things it does. One is it saves it in your Google Drive. So that's really convenient because you're already logged into Google. So it saves it in Google Drive. So you could go to Google Drive and you've got the link now. You can just send the link to students and they can watch it, which is great. It's actually playing back. Now, I could unmute it and you could listen. I'm not sure if there's going to be reverberation or not, how well you're going to hear it. We're going to learn how we solve 2x plus equals . Or, hey, we're going to graph something, or we're going to put a little chart, whatever it might be. So you've got this pen that you can end up illustrating at the same time, and you got different colors and things of that nature. I could All right, so I don't know if you could hear that well, but hey, now you can very easily within the Chrome browser create a screencast that will automatically save to Google Drive, and you can share that with their students. There are other things that you can do. There are other features that involve, for example, sending it to Google Classroom. So you have a share to Google Classroom option. You have an option to generate a QR code. You might also send this in Gmail to others. There are some downloading options as well. That include, of course, exporting it as a link, as I've mentioned, downloading it as a file. There are some restrictions. I would recommend that you go ahead and spend, I believe it's the $29 now, and you end up getting unlimited recording and unlimited exporting as well. But even if, hey, it's good to keep your screencast short, 5 minutes or less. That's what you run up against in the free Screencastify. And so even with the free Screencastify, there's no question that you and or students can make use of it for providing feedback commentary. And obviously you can do all sorts of tutorials and presentations in this. All right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a look at some of the comments in the last 5 minutes, see about any questions, suggestions, because you're all pretty advanced. So I'm sure you have some tips and suggestions. And obviously, I'm not covering everything of note in this session. All right, here we go. Copy of slides. Student doesn't have moat. Can they hear the comment? No, you want to put moat. You want to get moat, and it was completely free, so that was not an issue, and now it's become part of an issue. So you're going to have to sort of talk. What I would do is to talk to your technology director or talk to your education technology specialist at your school and district and see what their thinking is on moat. I've got a sense that a lot of districts will ante up for it, but I can't be certain of that. Be a Google trainer and moat premium. Well, we got the word today that it changed to one of my instructors told me this morning that it changed. I hope that's not the case. I hope we can get the premium for free. So it's going to be worth for all of us to kind of keep an eye on that and take a look this week going forward, see what that pricing is. Screencastify, great. Glad that you love it. Yeah, Loom is great too. Loom is great. It's kind of hard too. There are all these great options. There's some others I like as well. So for the sake of this one, I kind of focused on Screencastify, but Loom, take a look at that. That is free as well, and that's great. And there's a lot of similarities with Screencastify. For some people, it's like, it's more subjective. Oh, I like Loom better than Screencastify. Another one, Stephanie, do not need moat. Are they able to listen now without, because I'm not sure with the transition to paid, whether that's going to continue, that they can listen to it without moat. So we're a little in a gray area because of the change. I'm not sure, frankly. So we're gonna have to follow up on that to see if people can still listen with the free account. All right, $150 per person for moat with the discount, good. If you're already RW4GC, instead of moat, use voice note. Good idea, good tip, great. Anything else you would like to share? It'd be great if one of you wouldn't mind unmuting and maybe provide any other tips or suggestions. What has worked for you, what has not worked for you. What I'd ask everybody though, I'm gonna do kind of like, before I came to the workshop, I was thinking this, and after the workshop, I'm thinking this. In other words, before they came to the workshop, I wasn't thinking about recording audio and comments. And now, since we've done this workshop, I'm thinking about recording audio in comments. Something like that, like a before and after. So it gives me a sense of what you might be taking away from this workshop. So in these last 2 minutes, if you wouldn't mind doing that, writing about what you're thinking about going forward might have prompted some ideas in your head or what might have resonated with you. If you could do that in the chat box. And if anybody's willing, just open up the mic and add some ending suggestions and comments. I would appreciate that. Thank you. All right, I'll just wait a few more seconds. Yeah, the smart, Danielle loves the smart Canvas tools. Yeah, they're terrific. And there's actually more than I showed as well. So there are more things that you can do thanks to these, thanks to the chips. Yeah, thanks to Lorena for that term. Great. So Allison, thinking about expanding ways feedback. Yeah, more audio and video. Yes, to give us more opportunities. And again, these can be embedded. They can be embedded in our teaching activities, in our instructional assignments. Great. Okay, and Nicole's sharing some of the examples to the teachers. Awesome, glad that helps. Stephanie, okay, new video. Dive in them a little bit more. All right, great. Okay. Super. Okay. Before this workshop, felt like I would never record comments, but now you might. Good. Glad you got a little bit more maybe confidence and enthusiasm to do that. Christine, glad you love it all. All right, we're at our ending point. Again, this is being recorded. I did put the link in a couple of times in the chat. You just scroll up to the top of the chat. You will see the link, so you got the slides going forward. So it was a real pleasure working with you. Thank you very much. I'll stop the screen sharing and come back. And thank you. You can reach me at edtechteacher.org. I am Tom at edtechteacher.org. Somebody said they can't see the link. Let me put it in. Oh, did I send a direct message instead of everyone? That might have been what I did. I might have sent it a direct message instead of everyone. Okay. So I just sent it to everyone. There is the link for you. So thanks, everybody. And best wishes. Hope we cross paths again in the future. All right. Bye-bye.